She saw the potential in the Employee Engagement Awards when we first started 7 years ago, and put her backing behind it, and was a mentor to me. And like I say, we just wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have evolved and developed into what we are now. Kim has moved on from where we originally started working to a company called Protivity with a former colleague and now current colleague, Michael Allenson. And they've been working on something that they're going to launch this year. And I don't really want to ruin it with any introduction. So I'm going to basically bring them into the stream right now. So I'm going to say, welcome, Kim and Michael. Happy New Year.
Hello, Matt. Happy New Year.
I'm so glad we could make this happen, and welcome to the Inspirathon. I am going to exit the stage and come back later, and we'll have a few questions. So I'm going to leave it to you two.
Thank you, Matt. And good afternoon to everybody out there in the USA, and good day to wherever you are in the world. So I'm going to tee up my colleague Michael. We put together some material about rethinking the workplace. It's a response to what's going on out there in the world today, and we think it's incredibly relevant to creating the workplace and the atmosphere to drive engaged, inspired, and motivated employees. So, Michael, you want to kick us off?
Absolutely, Kim. Thanks. So I'll jump right ahead. 10 months and 7 days. It's a long time. That was the last time that I went to the office, 10 months and 7 days ago. For all of us, many of us out there, we haven't been to the office in a very long time. And a lot has happened since then. And, in a lot of ways, we've had a lot of successes during that time. We've learned a lot about ourselves. We've learned about our organizations and how they work and what their potential is. We have been working with a number of companies who have been approaching the idea of, how do I get back to the office? When do I get back to the office? And, what we want to share with you today is some of the things we're learning and the key takeaways. And as you can see from the title, one of the things that's a big thing that we've been experiencing is people are starting to question and ask, what is the value of the office anyway? So first, the pandemic has forced organizations to transform process, functions, and the way they work overnight. As organizational transformation professionals, if we were told we're going to overnight send all of our employees home, or not, if we decided we wanted to send them home, we probably would have mapped out a 6-month project to figure out how we were going to do that. And then at the end of that, we would be wondering why it wasn't working the way we thought it should. Yet we were able to do this, most companies, overnight. So it's an important lesson about transformation and, how we can think about doing things differently.
So those 6-month plans just went out the window.
That's right. Employees, they see benefits personally and professionally by not having to spend significant time commuting. Many expect to be able to work remotely, at least part-time going forward. One of the things that we heard about is just this idea of productivity and being able to just get so much more done, and just realizing how much people always hated the commute. Now they really realize how much they hate the commute. And it really is changing expectations.
Michael, I've talked to a couple of executives who said that they've eaten more dinners at home with their family in the last 10 months than they have in the last 10 years, practically. That's not an over-exaggeration for those who work long hours or who travel a lot. So it's really shifting a lot of the personal and professional dynamic that's out there.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and if you think about that feeling that employees want to continue to work at least some portion remote. Microsoft actually did a major study very recently of over 1,000 managers, I think over 2,000 managers, and 82% of them said that they expect to have a more flexible work policy when the pandemic is over with. This is a major change.
Yeah.
And so, this is behind the fact that, leaders are starting to ask the question, what is the value of the office anyway? And we've actually done this with some clients and with their employee groups. And it's not that there's not any value of being in the office. It's just different than what managers and leaders had thought they were. It sort of really highlights the importance of employee engagement and culture and collaboration and innovation, which of course is the province of the employee functions within the business. And so it's a powerful reminder of the importance, but it also tells us that we need to maybe think differently about the future of the office, almost more like an experience than like just a place to go and sit and work.
But Michael, I think you just hit on an important point, which is what is the experience of people working from home. There are a lot of companies that went the extra mile to make it a good experience. They've helped support employees with additional equipment. They've connected all the employees with great collaboration tools to make it an easier and better experience. So, it's not just about being able to show up in your pajamas, and roll out of bed and get on a conference call. It's also about having the right tools, being able to stay connected in the right way. And so organizations are having to think through what that experience looks like for their employees.
Exactly. And, as we've worked with different companies, one of the things we've seen is that employees don't seem to be having any trouble collaborating and communicating within their teams. Where it just really breaks down is cross-functional engagement. And we know how important, we hear people talk about the silos on and on for decades. And in some ways, this situation is actually reinforcing the silos because it's limiting that cross-functional collaboration. It's limiting those 5-minute conversations that you can have in the hallway when you're in the office. One of the things that go ahead, Kim.
I was going to say that while those can be issues, I've also heard of companies or leaders that will schedule open office hours, and team members just join those open office hours, and they're able to kind of in a neutral way hear what's going on and exchange ideas, get their questions answered in ways that hadn't happened before. So you have to just be mindful and listen and pay attention for the dynamics within the work environment, and always be thinking through that lens of how do I make this a better experience for my employees?
Yeah, and that's a very important point, Kim, because communication is always important, but it's especially important right now. And I'm sure many of the people who are listening into this have been business travelers fairly frequently. And we've all probably experienced being on the airplane when we're taxiing and we get put in the penalty box and the pilot doesn't tell us anything. Yeah. And we're sitting there wondering what the heck is going on. It could be 2 or 3 minutes and it seems like 20. And that's what employees are experiencing right now. There's an information vacuum. And even if management doesn't know what the future holds, they need to be able to communicate with people and say, we don't know. And let people ask them questions like Kim was describing. One concern that we have a little bit is, in this rush to move to more remote working and hybrid, I think there's a possibility, a strong possibility, that we're going to turn the faucet too far away. It's too hot right now. It may be too cold pretty soon. So all those organizational benefits of the office, may be overlooked as people shift to a more remote, the remote situation. And a year or two from now, they're going to be like, we need to get back to the office. We need to reopen our office or expand our office because we've lost all that culture. At that point, it's going to be hard to put the genie back in the bottle. So important to realize that now.
Sure. I think, as Michael highlighted, working remote has just impacted in so many different ways the work-life balance. You've got the absence of the face-to-face, the day-to-day, the culture and engagement are a challenge, and they're going to continue to be, whether you're in the office or whether you're remote. It's just thinking through and being deliberate about building the kind of experience that you want your employer brand to become known for out in the marketplace.
It's funny, Kim brought this up like soon after we all went home, when we were talking about this, that after we went home, it's sort of like Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, and companies should be thinking about not how do I put Humpty back together again the way Humpty was, but the way we should put him back together to tool him for the future, to tool the business for the future. And we all realize that these normal work rhythms, they've been disrupted. A new normal will form. The question is whether you are guiding the formation of that new normal or whether you're letting it happen on its own. And so, more than ever, it is really important for the HR teams and all of the talent development, everybody involved in those areas, be involved in this return to office. One of the things that some of our clients, this all started from sort of an organizational resiliency perspective, where they needed to make sure business continuity and all those things. Many companies have now experienced that they didn't have a problem with business continuity, not in the way they thought, but now it really needs to migrate over those organizational areas of the business to take hold of the return to office because of these very issues. So just, some quick takeaways that we had from this. So first of all, as we talked about, transformation is more achievable than previous experience would have suggested. What a lesson we've had there. Employees have discovered how to maximize both their professional and personal productivity, emphasizing performance over presence. On the negative side, we've discovered that remote work is not for everybody. Some people have too many distractions at home. Some people just can't be productive when they're alone. Some people don't have enough space. Other people just benefit from being in the office. And sometimes when you have new employees, they more than anybody need that contact. Decreased interaction hinders innovation and collaboration. The lack of proper cultural norms make maintaining performance remotely difficult. And then opportunities, because as we think about putting things back together, how do we turn our workforce into more of a secret weapon for the business? And reduce fixed costs of the office, reduce fixed costs of it being in place, give you the ability to have a more flexible workforce. Maybe you need special talents and you don't need them to be full-time. If you don't have an office model, then it's a lot easier and makes more sense to have some people that you're essentially hiring for half-time or some fraction because that's what you need from them. Technology enables the office to be wherever you are. The amount of productivity related software innovation that's going on right now is just off the charts, and it's going to continue. And so, the ability to have a really advanced sort of remote working situation is only going to get better. A new workforce that's more productive and happier with their jobs. We cannot underestimate the change that people have felt by not having their commute. It is one of the things, while there's a lot of things that make us unhappy during this pandemic, the lack of the commute has been a source of smiles for lots of people. And so that cannot be underestimated. And I think over time, we're going to see people who want to spend a week going to a vacation spot and work remotely because it just makes them feel better. So let me turn it over to Kim, and she can talk to you about how to think about how do you guide to this solution.
Yeah, I think when you put it in the context of this fantastic program that Matt has put together for all of the attendees, this 24-hour Inspirathon, and you think about creating an inspiring workplace, what does that mean in the context of today? And we want to wrap up our talk with the thought that it's inspiring by design. It doesn't just happen, that you need to lay the groundwork for a market-leading employee experience. And our model where we work with clients is built on 5 key dimensions across thinking strategically about the workforce. What kind of workforce do you need? What kind of contingent workforce do you need? Developing a skilled and sustainable workforce to take you into tomorrow. And from a people value perspective, making sure that you're intentional about building an employee journey map that is driving and creating the kind of brand and employer brand and the reputation that you want to have out there in the marketplace. And let's face it, employee experience is integrally related to the customer experience. So this type of foundation line pays big dividends, not only in terms of your workforce, but in terms of engaged and loyal customers as well. The experience side, and having the right kind of digital core, the right kind of technologies that are integrated and aligned is incredibly essential, and having the right organizational structure. So at the end, if you're intentional, if you're thoughtful in laying the right groundwork across these dimensions, you're going to attract the best talent. You're going to have the best people. You're going to have the best employer reputation out there on Glassdoor and other employment sites to be able to attract the best people. You're going to be able to engage your workforce much more effectively, whether they're distributed, whether they're virtual, whether they're in the office, and you're going to be able to retain the best talent because you have the best experience and the best culture virtually and in person. So we hope you are enjoying the 24-hour program and that this material has provided some insight and value into how you think about the office going forward. And please feel free to reach out to either Michael or I to extend the conversation, learn more about how to turn your work environment into the best place to work. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you so much. I just want to read something that was posted into our Slack community whilst you were having this chat, from an actual award winner, Organization of the Year, a couple of years ago in what was the Employee Engagement Awards. Cooper Parry, April Benbridge says, "I love this topic. Our office has always been a huge hub for us and a massive draw for recruiting. It's a sensational office space. This new way has really had to make us turn our thinking on its head. With the work from anywhere, anytime, forever policy, our office going forward is going to be much more of a social hub than a work hub. This will completely change how we use the space." So, your talk is of the moment, and obviously resonating with people watching right now. I suppose a couple of my observations, if you will permit me. Performance over presence. That's like Shangri-La for me. It's something we're seeing a focus on, but is it attainable? Will we actually get there?
It's interesting, Matt, that you raised that, because one of the struggles, and I've seen in the companies we're working with, as you might expect, a variety of personalities in leadership. Some of them I would call more progressive in their thinking about the way people work, and others more old school. And I think that, for the old school leaders, it is a bit of a leap, but this has exposed, it like that immediate transformation. This has changed some minds and opened some eyes, even among those old school leaders. But it's also given the progressive leaders the permission to jump in and say, see, this is possible.
Yeah.
And so I think actually this has the potential to help reduce some of those barriers.
Because one of my concerns, I suppose, is we have seen change that we've been trying for many years. What might take 10 years happen overnight because of the pandemic. And trying to find my words in the 24th hour. I've totally lost my train of thought, actually. Bear with me. There we are. The pandemic has led to an economic crisis. An economic crisis I'm not entirely sure we've seen the fullest extent of yet. And over the past decade, we've seen people move towards looking for purpose and values and working towards a company that aligns with their values and purpose personally. I fear, I don't want to be negative at the end of the Inspirathon, but I fear that people will just look for the paycheck, and those bad bosses who like presenteeism over performance will be able to keep doing what they've always done. And I suppose one of the main reasons for this event and why we exist is to stop that happening. So if there's any advice that you can do to try and give people some ideas to really champion this within their organization, I think we'd welcome them.
Kim, do you want to jump in on that one, or you want me to?
Go. You why don't you start and I'll finish up.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think, I think about it in terms of, I've done a lot of work in the customer space as well as the employee space. And, we always talk about the importance of the voice of the customer. And, for years, I would, have quantitative results of something that we studied with customers, and a senior leader would not believe a word of it because they had a different opinion of it. But they would see one person say it in a focus group, and it would be like, aha. And so this is a place where, using your employee surveys, using employee focus groups, and really, with one client, we did some of this, and we had literally 30 pages of verbatims. I don't know, most people out there, you do a anonymous employee survey, you're likely to get, maybe 20, 30% of people to respond. This client, 90% of the employees responded to this anonymous survey. It was just a very quick pulse survey.
Yeah.
We ended off of one open-ended response. We had 30 pages of open ends. We gave them to the senior management team, and literally, and I was not there, but my client, who was in the room with the senior leadership team at the time, said literally they were sitting around and each of them were reading verbatims that they had read and that resonated with them and started changing their minds. So I think the voice of the employee is super important here and can help to achieve that.
Okay.
I'll just tag on to that in summary, that leaders in organizations have to get good at managing from a diversity in mind. I mean, diversity is not just about your typical demographic aspects of diversity, but it's diversity of opinions and comfort levels around working styles. And some of the people or the employees feel very, very differently about this. I mean, if you have 3 kids under the age of 5, you feel very differently about the work from home experience than somebody who has, kids or no kid, or you're an empty nester. So you have to infuse a broader view and a broader lens on your workforce. You can't just see things through your own tunnel vision. That's leadership.
And that's definitely one of the silver linings. We can't of all this, and we've talked about it, and it's been spoken about for a whole year now. That's been obliterated. You can't just ignore that person you're working with has 3 children under the age of 5 at home, and that those issues stop when she comes to work. And that's definitely one of the positives. I have one more observation, really, more than the question, and I'll say thank you. It's the negatives around it, not for everyone. I think it's such an important point you raised there, Michael and Kim, in the sense that people rush to extremes. So I think almost immediately Facebook said they will never work in an office again. And I think if anything that's been shown from this pandemic is that people want flexibility and choice. They don't want to be told one thing or the other. Give them an option. And I think not for everyone is a really great way of positioning that. And it's something I will borrow, if I may, moving forward.
Absolutely.
Matt, you raised such an important point, not only that underscores what's going on in the world of work and from a leadership, but what's going on in our countries and in the society and personally, is that you have to be careful about polarization. Too much, pivoting too hard to the left, too hard to the right. And that, again, I go back to leadership has to keep their eyes forward. They have to manage to all stakeholders, across the entire workforce. And it really is dangerous when you take that polarized point of view and you're too reactionary. So I think it's a challenge for all of us these days.
Well, I think that's a fantastic place to finish, a point that transcends work and our actual lives as well. On a day like today, there's a little subtext there. Thank you so much. As I said with everybody, we'll be sharing this content online. I would love to expand what you've spoken about in a longer written piece as well for our website, because there's only so much we can do when we're presenting. So for now, thank you very much. You're the fourth, your last session of the Inspirathon, almost the 24th hour. So thank you. I hope you stay safe and well, and I can't wait to see you in the future in person sometime.
Thank you so much, Matt. It was a pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye.